This May, our son Connor developed an infection that ultimately spread to his heart. Early in May, he was golfing in the Dallas area. He went to visit some friends there. While there, he started feeling a little bit ill, and then got over it, came home. A couple weeks later, he started getting ill again.
And we get a text from Connor saying he wasn't feeling good.
I think we were supposed to play golf the next day or something, and he was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it tomorrow, not feeling the best. No worries, man, don't worry about it.
He called us. We were already here in church waiting for service to start, and he actually texted us and sent us a picture of a rash he had developed on his thigh. We all agreed that he probably needed to go get seen by somebody at prompt care. The doctor suspected he might have picked up Lyme disease, and so he put him on a antibiotic called doxycycline.
He would start feeling better, and then he would get worse.
Wednesday, we get a phone call saying that they ended up admitting him to the hospital, which was definitely scary, and they were going to run some tests.
Later that afternoon, they said, we're gonna transfer him to the hospital side instead of keep him in an observation. He got in there, and he was very sick that night. I was up with him all night long.
And when the doctor came in to look at the rash and said he's declining, he's getting really sick, he needs to go to a higher level of care, that's when our radar antennas went up. He went and had the exam of his heart, and it did show that there was growth on one of his valves of his heart, indicating that he might have a bacterial infection of his heart.
I get a call from my mom, freaking out, saying that he is in the hospital ICU room with the breathing mask. And the reason they put those things on him is to give him more oxygen. With that being said, he wouldn't get enough, so they were talking about putting him on a ventilator.
He realizes we're there, and you can tell he's scared at that point. He knows that things are not going well. And so we talked to him. I remember Lisa and I standing with him next to the bed and trying to explain to him that they're going to put a tube in your throat. He grabbed Lisa's hand. And he looked at her and he said, am I ever gonna get to go home again? So he knew this might be it.
Sick.
So from there, we were starting to kind of panic, because when you hear these things on medical shows and everything else, as you hear ventilator dialysis, it's going down a wrong path, and no doctors could really give us any answers. They were trying everything, pulling all kinds of ideas, but they just didn't really know. Luckily, my parents being in the medical field, they pushed to get him transferred to AU, and he got life flighted that night to AU.
And that's when things really just started coming apart at that point.
It seems.
The cardiology team came in and told us that they were going to take Connor to the catheterization lab, and do a cardiac cath on him. And they came back again and told us they needed to cath the other side of his heart. And after that procedure, they came back and said that he was truly in heart failure. But the only thing they could do at that point was to put a pump inside his heart. So they inserted a mechanical pump into his heart through his leg. The doctor came back and said, at that point, there's nothing more they could do, that it would just be an hour-by-hour situation, and that was it. We just fell apart.
They just started crying, just praying. In that moment, all I could do was just get on my knees, pull out my hands, just start crying out. In that moment, there was so much peace when I heard his voice say, I am not done.
The thought came to my mind that I knew Connor had been saved, and that he had a relationship with Jesus, and that no matter what happened, everything was going to be fine. And if he didn't make it, Jesus would be waiting there, arms wide open, waiting to welcome him into heaven, and he was going to be okay. That brought me a momentary, a brief period of peace.
And when you're in that moment, when you're in the valley and you hear his voice, and it's that calming relief of like it's gonna be okay. Like, he has a greater plan.
He did make it through the night, and they met with us again and said that Connor needed an additional level of expertise that they themselves couldn't provide.
So we ended up going to MUSC, and there was some ups and downs, lefts and rights. Saw multiple doctors, and as soon as we'd get over a hurdle, it would end up going to another hurdle. But he's here.
Basically, a week went by and I woke up in Charleston. They saw me for the first time, and that was kind of like my first memory, was seeing my mom and dad and my sister kind of walk in, and they were just like super excited to see me for some reason. And I didn't really understand why, because of all the drugs I was on. They're like, "How are you doing? You doing all right?" And I was like, yeah, I guess. I don't know what really happened.
In a matter of a very short period of time, he went from where we thought he may not survive to where he was already starting to respond to the treatment. And an interesting thing that we realized at that point is when he went to the prompt care, they put him on an antibiotic called doxycycline. Well, that is also the drug they use to treat the bacterial infection in his heart. Believe it or not, it's probably the prompt care doctor that probably saved his life by starting him early on a medicine that was actually treating the infection in his heart.
I really feel like my life just completely flipped. I have flaws just like every other person, but when you go through a crisis like what I went through, your life just completely changes. Your vision and how you view the world, because worldly desires don't matter, and the way that God just was moving in everything. He was just there. He was faithful. He never gave up.
Yeah, he was present through it all.
Yeah.
We saw glimpses of him at work, and we saw him through other people. The right person came at the right time when we needed him the most. The right doctors, the right friends. We had pastors show up at just the right time. It was just, God showed up when we needed him the most. The best news to date is Connor had an appointment with his cardiologist, and his heart appeared normal.
Everything seemed chaotic. I was relying on the Lord with worship in the hospital, with prayer, with everything that I could physically do. I just knew that he was there, and I could just feel his hand in every single situation, no matter what I went through, whether it was all my surgeries, whether it was my kidneys failing and recovering, whether it was my liver failing and recovering, whether it was my heart. Everything that happened was for his glory, and I knew he had a plan for me for this life, because if not, I wouldn't be here. God has a plan for me, and that was the main message, is that he's not done.